my name is Karanja, and I'm here to talk to you a little bit about hackathons. I know that hackathons might be something that you all are somewhat familiar with, but just wanted to give you all a deep dive and show you how you can use them within your teams to really elevate what you're currently doing. But a little bit about myself. As you can see, a lovely photo there. I consider myself a tech creative based out of here, Minneapolis, St. Paul. I also happen to be a children's book author. I'm really passionate about how we make technology and computing in general more accessible and more available. And I just thought one day it'd be really fun to write this from the perspective of like a first grader. And so I ended up with 4 books out of it. So just a little random fact. In addition to Hack the Gap, I also run a company called Guided Pulse, and we're really passionate about helping employers and organizations infuse diversity, equity, and inclusion into their work, not just by talking about it, but actually having specific action plans that tie into their organization's culture and the way that they already work. But I'm here more specifically to talk to you about Hack the Gap and hackathons and how you can leverage this within your organization. But a little bit about Hack the Gap first and foremost. We're focused on increasing the presence of women and non-binary techies within our broader ecosystem. We do this in part by hosting hackathon events. These are some that we put on ourselves, but then we also started doing this thing where we have it as hackathon as a service and work with organizations to partner with them and co-host their own hackathons or hackathons around their products and new technologies that they're launching. And so again, I'm here to talk to you about our hackathons, the secret sauce. And I'm specifically going to focus on 3 ways that you can utilize hackathons within your organizations. You can use them as a way to facilitate employee or participant collaboration. Bridget mentioned that that some people might be thinking about, well, how do we onboard people onto our team? How do we get people to know each other and work together? We're going to talk a little bit about how this framework is really well positioned to help you do that. Hackathons are also a really great way to innovate and address product challenges. And in fact, this is part of the core foundings around what hackathons were created to do. And then we'll also talk about the ways in which hackathons can help you better understand the ways that your customer and users are using your product. So that way you can build something that's really addressing certain pain points within the service or product that you're offering. So what is a hackathon? So hackathon is a combination of 2 words, hack and marathon. And it was first used in 1999. There's kind of a debate around who used it first and where. But as far as I could find, it was used in both Canada and California at about the same time in 1999. But the concept itself dates back to the 1970s. And in the 70s, it was used in these like demo day. It was really about competitive programming. And it really was bigger in like the video gaming space, the multiplayer video gaming space. But in general, hackathon is just a rapid innovation process. You get together very quickly, you go from idea to something that's designable or even built in a short amount of time. It also really forces people to focus on collaboration. Hackathon is really only possible when you have people who are working together and either compromising or co-building in order to make the product or the end deliverable possible. And some of those outcomes of that end product could be designing a solution, it could be designing a new framework, all sorts of different things, but you need to know what the end deliverable will be. And so what's our take on hackathons? Well, we see it as an opportunity for people to go from idea to solution in a very, very short amount of time. So within the span of like 48 hours, you can go from, I've never met you or you or you, but at the end of those 48 hours, we go from identifying a particular challenge or opportunity and building something that we can showcase and present to other people. We also see it as a way to collaborate and empower everyday people to be able to take their ideas to that next level. So you can take something that you've been thinking about forever and actually build it within a short amount of time and have the opportunity to test it out. Hackathons are also a space where people can get an opportunity to connect with each other, to network, to build relationships, and more importantly, to grow their skills and take their skills to the next level. I'll share with you a little bit of a story about my first hackathon experience. This was pre-Hack the Gap, and I attended, I think, about 3 or 4 hackathons before Hack the Gap. And I don't know why, but on the weekends I'd just be like, oh, I wonder if I could just go and collaborate with strangers. So I was in Madison, Wisconsin at the time, and I signed up for this 3-day hackathon, and I showed up, met a bunch of people I'd never met before, worked with a team with 2 other guys. I was the developer on the team. And it was really fun to go, again, from I'd never met this people to by the end of those 3 days, I knew so much about them. We had figured out how to work together, so it also worked out that we're a team that really collaborated. But I also saw some of the best and some of the most challenging qualities out of people and out of their teams really kind of come up to the top within that short amount of time, because there's also a lot of pressure in trying to build something, and it's also a hackathon. Part of it is that it's slightly competitive within all of that. But that was such a good experience that I kind of kept doing it over and over again. And once I found Hack the Gap, I really just kind of stuck to this as the place where I would keep on doing that and growing my skills. And so as you're thinking about whether or not hackathons are your secret sauce, let's talk a little bit about the process, and hopefully you can see how this process can help facilitate some of the things that you're looking to do within your teams. So first and foremost, you want to choose a focus area. So this can be a theme. So your theme might be, well, we want to address challenges around access to education. Or your theme could be that we want to do something interesting for employees for the next week. The theme can be really as broad, and the focus area can be as broad as you need it to be. The main thing you need to focus on is what's the glue that's holding everyone together. What makes one team and another team, even though they're working on something different, feel like they're still working towards a similar goal. And then, of course, you want to think through the timeline of the projects or how long they have to make that happen. And as you're putting together the teams, you want to think through who are the participants. Do you just want to have your internal employees, or do you also want to engage community members, or again, your users or your customers or other people within your general ecosystem to be part of that process? It can be a really cool way of expanding your brand, of bringing some more humanity to your organization, like people being able to see each other. It's a really great way of having people connect in all sorts of different ways. And then, of course, as they're thinking about potentially presenting, who's the audience? Is this something that you want to share with, maybe your development team wants to share with the product team as cool ideas they've been thinking about? Is this something that you want to share out with your marketing team? Is this something you want to test out and share out with the broader audience? And then all of this, I think it's really important to have a purpose. The best hackathons and the best collaborative events are ones in which there's a shared purpose. And so you really want to create a space where people can identify something beyond just their skills and what they're bringing to the table, but a passion that they have around a particular topic. And then within the teams, it's important to understand and see how the different roles can come together. So in order for a team to be successful, do you need a designer, a developer, a business person? What are the key components that are necessary to make a team really be poised for success? And this is going to look different for each type of hackathon that you have. And then, of course, the deliverables. And this is really all about making sure that, again, everyone is set up for success. What's going to be the final product? What's the goal? And how will the teams know when they're quote-unquote done? Because otherwise, you can have folks who never get started because the idea is too broad, or the deliverable is too broad, or folks who just keep working and never get to the point where they feel comfortable enough to present. So you want to make sure you really define what that done looks like. And this is something that's just kind of fun, but really, how do you gamify the process so that way it's interesting? What's the incentive for people to keep on working through and continue to work on the projects? So as you're thinking about how you can leverage hackathons, these are key components to make sure that you build something that is going to be intriguing and engaging to your participants. And so for us, this is in 2019, pre-COVID, but for us, this is kind of how the initial process would start. People would share out a bunch of ideas, folks would go around and vote with different stickies, and then once the ideas that have the most votes or potential engagement have been identified, then people would come together, form a team around that particular idea, and start to get to know each other. So a lot of these people had never met each other an hour prior to this photo being taken. And now, there's some sense of camaraderie. So then you go from that part to actually building, connecting with each other, learning from each other. You can have folks who may never have tried out a framework prior to a hackathon see this as an opportunity to do just that. You can really kind of take this concept and push it beyond its boundaries. So for example, if you have like a team member who's in your product team who's always wanted to try something in testing, a hackathon is a great opportunity for them to try out some of those new skills and to test out what it would be like to be in other divisions within your organizations. And then after they've built something, you present your idea to your colleagues or just the broader audience. And this can be tied to things like prizes and other ways of kind of leveling up that experience. But in the midst of all of that, I think it's always cool to infuse fun elements into it. And so one of the things that we found to be just really enjoyable is inviting other people, potential vendors, to come and join us and share what they're doing. So this is an example where we had Spinning Wild, which is a cotton candy company, come and spin for us. So they were making just a bunch of cotton candy while people were waiting and presentations were going on. We also have had, for our virtual events, an organization called Coconut Whisk, and they are focused on gluten-free desserts, essentially. So like cupcakes, pancakes, all sorts of different types of baked goods. And they showed us basically how to use their product to make a really delicious breakfast that is also gluten-free. So just infusing other elements that make that whole experience a little bit more holistic and enjoyable. So going back to those three key things that we can use and leverage within the hackathon process, I kind of just want to highlight 4 core areas for each one of them and talk a little bit about that. So first and foremost, when we're talking about facilitating participant collaborations, you really can use this as an opportunity to host teams that are coming from different parts of your organization. So when you think about, especially some of these large organizations, some folks have never met each other. Departments never connect outside of maybe a manager level or a certain level of the organization. And that can make it really hard for people to feel connected to how their work is leading to the end product or is actually connecting with the consumer or the user or the customer. And so by having a hackathon where you can have teams from different parts of the organization, it's a really great opportunity for everyone to see how their work might impact another department or another team, and therefore build some empathy and camaraderie with one another. So we see this as a really great way of crossing some of those bridges in a way that's more organic, more fun, and can lead to much deeper relationships across team members and across teams more broadly. Because we know that when teams don't really work together, when one side of the organization does not necessarily see how their work might impact another part, that's definitely going to show up in one way or another in the products or the services that are being created. Another piece is that this is an opportunity to encourage creativity beyond everyone's day-to-day work. So because it's a hackathon, you can choose what role you want to play, and you can really choose what new skills, or you can stick to just deepening your current skills. And it's a really great way to kind of expand beyond what you're currently doing. And oftentimes, within our day-to-day work, we don't always get a chance to do that, right? We don't always get a chance to try something new within our marketing departments or try something new within our specific engineering teams. And hackathons are a great way to do that in a way that's completely low risk and in a way that employees and participants are not necessarily going to feel a lot of pressure, but just a chance to try something else. This is also a great way to introduce a new framework or language or a new way of doing things within your team in a way that's more confined. And so by that I mean that you can either test out the ability to try out maybe a new like a new launch product or service, or to try out a new framework within what you currently have, and just test some of those things out in a very low-risk type of environment. Hackathons are a great way to do that, and a great way to just see how your team might engage with that new process. And of course, process development and infusing new processes sometimes can take weeks, if not months, and then sometimes it works, and then when it doesn't, it's the worst because you spend all this time and energy in trying to get buy-in, and if it doesn't work within your team, you've lost a lot of time and energy. And so a hackathon is a great way of testing it out within a short amount of time, gathering the feedback that you need to either move forward or improve on what it is that you're currently trying to introduce within your team. And by the way, that can be part of the theme that you have. So maybe your theme for your next hackathon is using a certain framework. The other piece as well is that this is a great way for teams to connect, especially right now as organizations are trying to figure out whether or not they're going to be hybrid or virtual or in person. Hackathons are a good way of just reconnecting people, but in a way that's still going to work within whatever your workplace environment looks like at the moment. So hosting hybrid or virtual hackathons can really still give people that feeling of being together and staying connected. And then, of course, it's always good to have incentives to drive that collaboration. But also, hackathons, part of it is that it's a little bit competitive. You want to create a space where people can really showcase their talent, showcase what they're all about, where teams can try to figure out how to bring the best and most innovative solution to the table. And the more freedom and creativity they have to do so, I think you'll get some really interesting results out of the types of projects that come out of it. But that healthy competition is part of that hackathon process. And again, especially in a low-risk type of environment, like being able to build something within a short amount of time. So now to the next piece around how hackathons can be used to address product challenges. And of course, this is something that a lot of us are always working towards. And I do use the word product broadly, so product or service, whatever it is that you're offering. The first thing is that you can use it as an opportunity to address very specific product challenges. So you could have a hackathon that's just focused on a bunch of bug fixes, if that's what your team wants to do, or maybe addressing some of the biggest hiccups and gaps within your product, your delivery method. It's a great way of just picking that particular focus area and seeing how you can go about creating an innovative solution that can be focused on just that part. And these product challenges can also be about, whether it's building a new feature, but then also using your product engagement data to understand where some of those challenges can be. This can also be a great place to consider building new features that are driven purely by the team. So oftentimes we have, whether it's a new feature or a new product, might come from different parts of the organization. But I think it would be a really cool idea to ask the team itself and say, hey, we have a chance for you all to look at our product and think about what you would want added in there. And you might get some really cool and interesting ideas out of this as part of the way that you think about product development. And so having those new features driven by your team, you could get a completely different angle, because these are the people who are usually going to be building your team, especially if they're the developers. Oftentimes they're building and not necessarily having a say in what it is that they're building. It can also help you take a more rounded approach to the product. And by this, I mean having a team that incorporates different parts of the organizations or different people that interact with the product or your customer or user be part of the hackathon team itself means that you can have all those different perspectives, again, within a short amount of time to create a very specific item. And you can also build something that's different or interesting, or just use it as an opportunity to give back to your community. So this might be a cool way to do some open source type of work that connects back to your product. It could be some really interesting lead generation opportunities. And so just thinking about it in that way can also help you see the value that comes out of giving people that opportunity to just kind of do something that's a little bit different, but really in their own hands within their own sort of creative outlet. And something else I want to add to when it comes to using this as a chance to address your product challenges, you can take a look at your backlog that you have and what some of the tickets that you have and see if there's certain themes. And those could also be the themes that you can use as the general theme for your hackathon for the teams to focus on. And as I mentioned, this can also be a really great way of understanding the ways that your customers or your user is using your product or service. And so you can focus on pain points that's focused on customer feedback that you're getting all the time. Take a look at your social media, see what people are saying. Take a look at your ticket submissions, see what people are saying, and create different focus areas and teams that are tied to those pieces. You can use it also as an opportunity to dive into your product engagement data and identify what people are missing. So for example, if you have an onboarding process and you realize that people are finding either different ways of using your product or they're getting stuck somewhere, this is a great chance to use that to be able to address some of those needs that your customers are pointing out by the ways in which they're interacting with your product. It also would be a really cool opportunity to ask customers to be part of the hackathon, to be part of your team, and to really feel like they're connecting even more strongly with your product or with your organization. So really looking at those key users and seeing if they would want to have an input in what it is that the product is doing. That's always a great way to do more outreach and to expand how people are interacting with your product, your service, or your brand. And then, of course, you can use it as a way to understand and share out some of that user experience. So as part of the process, teams could have to talk to different users or watch the users use the thing that they just built to better, again, understand how users are engaging with your product. And so as we're going through and potentially thinking about how to host our hackathons and how to host them in a way that's going to help our organizations grow, our products be more innovative, and then also making sure that our teams are able to come together, connect, build together, there's a couple things to keep in mind. The first and foremost is that dynamics that make tech challenging for certain people, again, these are the outcomes that we see when we have a lack of diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives and action plans within our organizations, are really only amplified or heightened within a hackathon setting. So if there are certain things that your organizations need to work on, this is a great way of taking a moment and working on those first, because hackathons can really just amplify some of that. So that's something to keep in mind. And on top of that, the way to mitigate this is to really, again, work on kind of your organization's culture, but then also to see facilitation and programming as the key. Most of the work that makes hackathons successful, from my perspective, is not actually necessarily the hackathon itself. It's all of the work leading up to the hackathon. So it's thinking about how are teams going to interact with one another, how are you going to provide opportunities for people to address conflict or enhance communication, how are you going to make sure that everyone feels like they're getting their voice heard. And so that facilitation and programming that happens prior is really 90% of the work. And also, how do you keep it entertaining and dynamic? How do you make it something that's fun and exciting and people will want to keep doing? Something else to keep in mind, of course, it's connected to my prior point, is that you should really be centering certain core values within that hackathon process. Part of it, I would say from my perspective, is including things like inclusion and accessibility as key components and key lenses through which you're seeing, through which the teams can be working, the lens through which the teams will be working in. And so a lot of that is just, I think, from just hearing people's stories around being in hackathons. And I think one of the things that made Hack the Gap really exciting for me the first time I experienced it is that it just felt like a place that I could belong inherently and that I could learn and ask questions in a way that didn't make me feel like I didn't know what I was doing, but it was really a chance to learn and grow and find mentors and friends. And so part of that is around providing the necessary tools that are necessary to have teams that are communicating with one another, and having some of those collaboration tools. So also providing like very tactical things, like if you have a virtual team, access to things like Zoom, stuff like that, giving them hints or opportunities for them to test out different ways of like deploying the code or testing something out, as well as just literally within their team settings as humans to humans, how do they work together and work with one another in order to compromise and address the things that come up when everyone has a great idea, right? And a lot of that just has to do with facilitating an environment that really centers equity and voice, and it centers the fact that everyone should be part of that process inherently, regardless of the role that they're playing. So not one particular role is deemed as more than or more necessary than any other one, but everyone is really part of that team and part of that process. And so again, how does everyone get to share their input, not just in the team setting and beyond? So even as folks are sharing out what it is that they worked on, how does that share out process encourage everyone to speak to the project if they want to speak to it? How do you make sure that credit is shared across the team? And it's clear that it really was a team and a collaborative process. Those are the key little things that make an experience one that people will want to have over and over again. And then, of course, gathering feedback and continuing to work on some of the things that worked, leveraging the things that did work within other parts of your organization or your day-to-day work, but just keeping that process something that's ongoing. All right, so that's all I have to share. Thank you so much. Feel free to follow us at hackthegap.com or hackthegap on Twitter and Instagram. Let me know if you have any questions. My email's down there. Thanks again.